you all for joining KSU's Franchise Management Speaker Series, Management 4124, which includes CEOs, private equity firm leaders, bankers, entrepreneurs, and advisors. We are in a classroom on the KSU campus where the cameras only face front in the top of the ceiling, and it looks like pretty far away. This is all due to student privacy requirements, so it may seem that I'm looking down and all by myself. My name is Jordan Krolick, Professor of Franchise Management. My non-professor life is as an independent equity sponsor, consultant, and senior leader with companies such as McDonald's, Arby's, Home Depot, and more. I say this all the time, but today we are very, very excited to have Jamie Krasnov. Jamie is CEO at Apex Leadership Company, a dynamic fundraising franchise for elementary and middle schools that I'm fortunate to sit on the board of. Jamie has been instrumental in steering the company's strategy and execution to increase value to the Apex franchisees and Apex schools across the nation. In fact, the brand has had an outstanding 200% revenue increase since Jamie stepped into the role as CEO in 2021, so basically the last 2 years. Before his tenure at Apex, Jamie founded Heritage Operating Partners, a private equity firm concentrated on fast-growing franchisors, and had previously served in various investing roles across private equity, public equity, and investment banking. And what I would add to this is I've had the pleasure of working with Jamie for a little bit now. And in terms of the combination of capabilities, intelligence, and basically a go-get-em attitude, he's one of the best I've come across. So I appreciate it, and thank you for joining us, Jamie.
Thank you for having me, Jordan. It's kind of full circle here. Me and Jordan met because, and I love this story, because I was looking for really smart people who knew about franchising. And I YouTubed a couple of things, and this speaker series came up. And I looked at the speaker series and I thought, this class has got these amazing people coming through here, and truly amazing. I was like, this is such a fortunate class to get to hear from this guy and that guy. And these are the best operators in franchising, the best known in the industry. And they're giving up everything. Like, you don't get to hear these people talk very often. And I thought, this is amazing. I'm going to cold call this guy just to figure out what's going on here. And I did, and Jordan helped me with some problems I was having, and we had an opportunity to bring him onto the board, which has been very successful so far. So I don't know if I would put myself in the category with those guys, but it is just very interesting and full circle and crazy to think that, I was watching these YouTube videos, very impressed by them. And now, our relationship has developed, and I've been fortunate enough to be actually invited onto one. So I'm a big fan of this class. I'm a big fan of the videos. And so I'm very happy to be here and share whatever experiences I've had that could be helpful.
That's incredibly nice, Jamie. And as I said a few minutes ago, it's very appreciated. I think what would be best, because you have such a cool involvement into Apex, I'd love to start from where you were right before Apex, how you got, to basically right after closing the transaction for Apex. So basically that time frame of, hey, wow, this is what I want to do, to, wow, now I'm CEO of a company.
Yeah. So I'll just rewind just maybe 6 months even prior to that. I went out to a bunch of CEOs and investors, and I had spent a long time in private equity and investment banking, and maybe some of the students will spend some time in that, but I had a lot of exposure to a lot of different companies in those roles. And I went out to a group of investors, largely CEOs, and said, I think I know how to buy a company. I've done that a few times. Other people have helped me. They were really in charge and I helped them. And I'd like to buy my own company. I'd also like to run that company. I don't want to run a traditional private equity firm. I want to run one company. And we're going to find a company, and we're not just going to use a lot of debt, but and put in a little equity and get a good return, but we're just going to find one company we can grow. We're going to find one company we can grow. We don't know what it is yet, but we're going to find one company. So let's all band together, and I'll lead the effort. You're going to finance me, and we're going to work together. I'm going to use your resources, both your financial resources, but also your advice to find one company. And they were on board for that. That was a pitch that resonated with um, several CEOs and investors. And I've looked at a lot of different industries before, and I think franchising is one of the coolest industries, if not the coolest industry. I think it's an awesome, awesome industry. I was originally attracted to it because financially, it's like an incredible industry when it goes well. It's just an incredible industry. Like, you've provided this business model, it's unique. You're giving entrepreneurs an opportunity to participate in it. And if it works, the way the economics works is if your entrepreneurs are successful, you get a very profitable royalty stream associated with it. That was how I originally got introduced to it. But as I've gotten closer to it, it's much even better than that. It's it's a wonderful industry where you're giving someone a ticket to entrepreneurship. And if you are successful in helping them become successful, you get rewarded in spades. And if you're not, you are not rewarded. You're not going to be successful long term. And so I think it's a really beautiful marriage of the right thing to do, which is to make your entrepreneur successful and being rewarded economically. And the opposite is true too. If you are not good to your entrepreneurs and you don't make a successful business model for them, you will not stay around for a long time. And I just think it's a great, awesome, really cool industry. And I've participated in a lot of industries, and franchising is just awesome. It's so awesome. There's so many cool things about it. If I could take a franchising class in college, I would have 100% done that. That's a really cool thing to do.
I'll have to send that around to all the deans.
Yeah, it really is. I think it's the best industry. I personally feel pretty strongly about that. And it's not, I've been in several other industries prior. Well, I was just gonna put a bow on it. I wanted to only focus on franchising, and I went out to every franchisor and I met with many, many, many of them and told our story. And we thought Apex was the best one. And so I told the story back to our investors. They thought it was too. And, we closed it shortly thereafter. That whole process took about 18 months.
And so I'm going to hand, as you've seen in the past, you're going to get asked questions two different ways. One is if students raise their hand, I will call on them. The second way is a lot of them have given me questions in advance, and I will dovetail those questions into our conversation. So I'm going to have Shahil lead us off with the question that he provided.
All right. Hey, I'm Shahil.
You got to speak up really loud.
I'm Shahil, and my question is, where did you get the inspiration to start this, and what was your business plan to make it happen? Which I think you kind of went over.
A little bit, but I'd like to get more of the inspiration side.
Sure, absolutely. When I was in college, maybe a junior, maybe a senior, the cool thing about being in college is when you reach out to like senior people, really senior people, you could reach out to I was reaching out to the CEO of TPG, which was the largest private equity firm in the world at that time. And the crazy thing is those people will talk to you like when you're in college. When you get out of college, sometimes they won't. And so I went around and called a bunch of people in college, and it's crazy how they responded and gave me their thoughts on what I should do in my career. And I got a lot of good insight. When I was in college, what I wanted to do was I wanted to buy a business and operate it. The whole industry developed later that would support me in that. And those are those investors that I reached out to, both with the financial and other resources. But I knew that I wanted to buy a business and operate it when I was in college. And many of the roles that I took after that were to support that. And I got that inspiration from several people, including some of my family members. But it really was just calling a bunch of very senior people at these very legitimate companies. They were willing to talk to me for some reason, and just coagulating those thoughts, putting those thoughts together and deciding kind of what the best path for me was.
And then let me pass it right directly to Amir.
Hey, so I'm Amir, and my question was, what was one person or event that stood out to you that helped you get your foot in the door, and how can someone like us go about finding such an opportunity for ourselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. for me, for example, one of the biggest opportunity sets was, getting folks to buy into me early, into us, for example, for this venture, raising capital, getting that first investor, and everything after that, first real legitimate investor was easy. And I guess what I did was I just got really curious. So I wanted to talk to one person, well, really several different people, but I really wanted to talk to those several different people. And I just thought they were really interesting people. So I did a ton of research on them. And I was like, here's why I want to talk to you. Here's what I want to talk to you about. Your background is like so perfect for this. And here's why I think that. And whether I was emailing them or cold calling them or asking someone else to introduce me to them, I think that background work of getting really curious about that person and showing that like I really needed their help and showing that I put some work in made an impact and allowed them to both take my call and then open up to me and ultimately help me. So I think just getting when you're looking for some help from somebody, if you put in a little bit of work and research that person, I think you can put yourself in a much more likely position to succeed and maybe get them to help you in terms of getting to the next step of your journey.
No, that's critical. And Taylor, I'd love for you to ask the professional question that you had.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm Taylor. What enticed you to make such a big career move? So I did a little research and you wanted a career with more meaningful focus. But how do you translate that into layman's terms when searching for a new career path? Basically, what was the deciding factor in gaining ownership with Apex? What was the end all be all?
So when we looked at Apex on the outside in, we just thought it was just an absolutely wonderful business, which it is. From a business perspective, Apex solves a massive, massive problem, which is we help schools who are in desperate needs of funds. We help them raise huge amounts of money, stuff they would never be able to do without us, which is very valuable to them. And along the way, we also teach like very valuable character and leadership lessons. What Apex does is we put on fun runs that are fundraisers for schools, and through several different initiatives, it is an absolutely enormous value impact to an elementary school who really, really needs it. And the way Apex is structured is it's almost impossible for someone to replicate what we do. It's actually very, very hard for that to happen, which is why there aren't that many people doing this. And why the incumbents who serve our customers are, very friction. Like they're not providing the value that we are. And so when I looked at Apex on the outside in, I thought, wow, this is a business that provides a superior value prop in an infinitely large market with very little. It'd be very hard to compete with this business. And I thought, wow, this is a perfect business to grow, which was our original kind of plan. But as you kind of look deeper into Apex, it's not just that it's an absolutely phenomenal business, why it attracts people and why it attracted me, but Apex also serves a very deep and powerful mission that attracts very high quality people across the organization. And for me specifically, it was basically like, hey, you can go combine your career and stuff that you're very passionate about in your personal life. Usually those two things, unfortunately, in this world become separate. You may be very passionate about coaching basketball, but you may take a job as an investment banker or something, and you sort of divorce the career and personal passions. Apex was an awesome opportunity because it was a phenomenal business that I was excited to run and grow, but it also is this wonderful business that's helping the community. Maybe those two things are linked. So for me, what really encouraged me to buy Apex and get involved was it's just a phenomenal business, but also, wow, what an efficient lifestyle whereby you get to combine your personal and professional passions into one.
No, and that's one of the things that attracted me. So let's talk about that a little bit. So you're Apex, you have a franchisee, they go into a school, maybe talk to the principal, and what's the selling proposition? What do they get from working with that Apex franchisee versus just doing it themselves?
So if you back up, there are 80,000 elementary schools in this country, and about 80,000 rely on their community to raise funds. In other countries, the government fully funds the schools. In our country, the government funds a lot of things like teacher salaries, but a lot of the other things that the school might want or need, like field trips, jungle gyms, laptops, whatever, are typically funded by the community. And the way that most communities fund that is they do a door-to-door candy drive, which is what I did when I was a kid and what about 90% of schools are still doing today. And if they're not doing that, they might be doing a daddy-daughter dance, they might be doing a golf fundraiser, they might be doing an auction. There are several what we call DIY fundraisers that a lot of schools will do, which are good first solutions, but whatever solution you're choosing, one, it tends to not raise very much money for the school, and two, it's not very productive for the kids. Going door to door selling candy is not super productive for children. And having all the dads get together and play golf is great, but there's nothing really in it for the kids in that scenario. And so what Apex does is our franchisees go to that set of customers, whether it's a principal or a PTA president that is responsible for the fundraising in the schools, and says, hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to put on a program, a 2-week program focused on character and leadership. And we're going to end that 2-week program with a fun run. And each day I'm going to come into your classroom and I'm going to tell a new character lesson or a new leadership lesson or a new fitness lesson, a lesson that we don't think is part of your curriculum. And you're going to love it. The kids are going to have an amazing time. Your school is going to absolutely love it, every single person. And at the end of those 2 weeks, we will put on a fun run, and the parents and their cousins and their friends and their aunts and their uncles, they're going to log on to Apex's technology platform and contribute towards their kids. And when you put all those things together, your school is going to raise, depending on what you did, multiples of what it did before we got there. It's going to raise $50,000, $60,000, $150,000, $200,000. Depending on the school size, we are going to significantly increase how much you raise. Our franchisees have to take a small piece of that for their profit model, and there is a piece that goes into providing the equipment and the people and all the expenses for that. But the majority of the money is obviously going to go to the school, and your school is going to be able to afford stuff like laptops, jungle gyms, engineering centers, STEM education programs, whatever that your school could never afford before. So if people make that pitch in front of PTA presidents, it's very compelling, and a lot of people will buy in, and that's part of the reason why Apex is growing so quickly right now.
Yeah, it's basically a professional fundraiser.
Yeah.
Which, if you talk to almost every charity in the world, they're staffed by professional fundraisers.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads to this next question, which I really thought was interesting. And I like you when it's shared, I'd like you to take the tack of that you're franchised and the franchise factor. But Bryson, why don't you kick us off with the question that you had?
So yeah, I'm Bryson. When I looked at your website, it kind of reminded me of the Booster-thon fun runs. I know like in Roswell where I grew up, that was a big thing. What do you guys, I guess, how do you differentiate yourself, or why would someone go with you over them? And then also kind of a separate thing, how are your franchisees broken up? Like, do they get certain areas to work in, or I guess how is it broken down?
So that's a great question. And we have one large competitor who is a company-owned model. It's not a franchise, with the majority of their folks based actually in y'all's area, in the Atlanta area. And they serve a lot of schools in Atlanta. And what we have a strategic advantage versus them because we are our franchise, and our franchisees own a little piece of land all over the country. They own some in Houston, they own some in Washington, they own some in California, they own some in New York, so on and so forth. And because our franchisees are inside those territories, their staff is inside those territories too. And it's much easier for our teams to serve schools if they're inside the territory, as opposed to flying back and forth from Atlanta, which is typically how Booster-thon will serve their schools. And because of that, we're able to spend more human being time with our schools, able to focus more on the character lessons, more on the leadership lessons, and able to provide more human to human interaction, just in terms of at least the number of days that we're there, for example, in addition to several other things that are a big part of our business. And so what we find is that schools really love working with Apex because we're a franchise model. It gives us a pretty significant competitive advantage because our local area franchisee is looking after their local area schools and their people are local, which allows them to serve the schools with more intensity in terms of time and care as opposed to flying back and forth from Atlanta.
And so basically your special sauce in some way is that you're a franchise model.
100%. It's a really good to serve in our business, in the school business. Being local to a elementary school is really important. Elementary schools care about that. They want that. They want to interact with local businesses. And because we're also local, we're able to spend more time with them. And it ends up being a big advantage, which we're very happy about.
And so even though when you have tons of people who want to become Apex franchisees, how do you select the one that makes the most sense for a certain area?
So Apex is like this incredible value prop for everybody, especially our franchisees, whereby they can leave their job and their corporate gig. Usually they can become their own business owner, which is great. They can make a good living for them and their family, but also they can support their local community much more than another mowing lawns would or cleaning roofs. And those are big supports of the community, but this is a little bit more of a direct path towards supporting your community in a big way. So it's a really compelling model for our franchisees. And what's important for our business, because we're a franchise model, and especially because we really care about who's interacting with local schools, is the quality of our franchisees. And we have a whole set of criteria around what it takes to be a high quality franchisee that we grade our franchisees on. It's a 6-week process, interacting with us for multiple touch points, also meeting in person for 2-3 days. It's a big, long interview process to get into our system. And what we're ultimately looking for is 3 concentric circles. And the circles that all overlap each other. And if you get all 3, you're going to be a great franchisee. And the first one is the ability to connect with other people. Telling our story is very compelling. It is what's going to drive our business. And people will usually want to work with Apex if they hear our story. So if you're able to connect with people and tell our story, that's super important. If you're a little bit more introverted and that's not really your jam, it might not be a good fit for you. The second thing is ability to articulate the Apex value proposition. And so if you really fall in love with our business, which I got to tell you, a lot of people do, especially when they see it in person, you're going to be able to tell our story. You're going to be able to tell the Apex value proposition because you're going to fall in love with our business and it's going to ooze out of your skin and you're going to be able to tell people why they should choose to work with Apex. And the third one, which is the hardest one to figure out, is to be any business owner, you really need a lot of grit. You really need to push really hard to be in any business, to be leading that business. And so we test for that. We look for that. We do personality tests. We have interview questions. And if you can combine those 3 concentric circles of ability to connect with people, ability to articulate our value prop, and the grit factor, you're going to be an incredible franchisee. And that's what we're looking for.
Well, that's a great lead in because now the class is going to be interesting because we spend the next 3 weeks doing those types of tests to see, so they understand, at least for themselves, what type of people they are. And maybe franchising is a good fit. Maybe corporate's a good fit. I know my goal was always to be a philanthropist. I just didn't have the means to do it.
Still time, Jordan. On that, yeah, those tests are incredibly valuable. Like I would read those tests if you guys get the opportunity to do that for yourself. They're super enlightening.
The cool thing about this class is every semester that I've taught, we have very different demographic of students. And this year, we actually have a lot of management graduates. Everybody's essentially a senior, or if they're not a senior, they're essentially a senior. I'd love to hand it over to Julia as we start talking about some of your issues of being a manager, being a CEO.
Hi, I'm Julia, and I was
Hi,
wondering
Julia.
if you would share an example of an issue your company faced and what you did to overcome it. And did you take any measures to avoid that same issue from happening again?
Yeah, there's, when you're running a company, there are so many to choose from. And let me just think of a good one that would be helpful for this class. Yeah. So, when you bring on franchisees, you want them to follow a process. If you guys go into the franchising industry, there will be a lot of processes and checklists. And if people follow that checklist, typically they'll be successful. That's why a franchise exists in some ways. The checklist is very important for success. If it wasn't important and it didn't work, then that franchise probably wouldn't be where it is today, especially if it's a more mature franchise. And so when you're working in a franchise model, these people are their own independent business owners, and we respect that to the nines. We're really respectful of that. They are their own independent business owners. We do not control them. But we still want our brand upholded, and we still think that following our checklist is really important. And so when you don't control someone, when you're working with a business partner who's one of your entrepreneurs, you can't use the traditional corporate path to try to convince them that what you'd like them to do would be good for them. In traditional corporate path, there's just, hey, I'm the boss, you're not the boss, so you should do this. And that's typically what you'll do. If there's an entrepreneur who is on your same level, you really only have two other paths. You really can't do that. You have to find another path. And so being successful in the franchising space, or a big component of it, and if you guys join, is this idea of carrots and sticks. And the idea that helping your franchisees understand why following this checklist or doing this is beneficial to them. And so as an example, we think that if franchisees follow our checklist to go help schools understand more about Apex, those schools will fall in love with Apex. And there is a very specific checklist to do that. And so when we see folks who aren't doing it, who are doing it their own way, we don't see them as successful. And so we like to focus on carrots, meaning helping franchisees understand why it would be good for them, as opposed to sticks, which are, hey, you do this, and if you don't, you'll get the stick. And so for that, and specifically, we've really built a bunch of case studies whereby if you follow this checklist, and this has already been done, then you will be successful. And that has been a very successful initiative. We have several franchisees that are now following more defined checklists who have gone from not successful to very successful. And so that's like the big skill. What I've come to learn, one of the very big skills associated with being a successful franchisor, helping your franchisees understand, ideally with carrots, what would be helpful for their business, which would ultimately hopefully be helpful for the franchisor at large.
That's awesome. And diving a little bit deeper, Jacob.
Hi, my name is Jacob. My question
Hi,
was,
Jacob.
what was your biggest decision you made over the last year, and has it benefited you or not?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think for any of you guys are all in management. So, someday very soon, you will be managing people. A big part of managing people in most organizations is hiring people. And so hiring people, there's all sorts of things when you look at a company that you could do. And sometimes you call those things strategy. But really, at the end of the day, the most important part, as far as I've seen, are the people that you bring onto the bus. And so whenever you're making decisions around who you're bringing on or not bringing on or taking off the bus, those are the biggest, highest impact decisions I think you can make at a company. I've had this conversation with Jordan many times, whereby the role of a CEO, and maybe we'll talk about this, is you find the right people on the bus. You tell them exactly what you expect of them in terms of what you need the business to do. And then you let them run and you check in and move obstacles for them. But other than that, you're out after that. You're just checking in to help. And so I think the biggest component of those three steps are finding the right people on the bus. And sometimes you have to choose to replace somebody on the bus. That's a very scary thing, because you're either going to get a heck of a lot better, you're going to get a heck of a lot worse. One of the things that has been illuminated to me is that if you think that's the right decision, I think you're usually right. And so trusting your instincts. And so we've doubled the size of the staff over the last 18 months. That's a lot of people to bring on, a lot of decisions to make. And every time it's a huge decision on who you're bringing on, who you're going to work with. And so those have been the most impactful decisions. And every single time it's been a great decision in terms of replacing. When you are bringing on a new role, it's hard to know. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But when you are thinking about replacing, that has been a very successful effort when we have chosen to replace people. But the HR decisions, who you choose to work with, are by far the most important decisions, at least in my tenure, of the amount of success that the company's going to have.
No, I was hoping you'd go there because I couldn't agree with you more. No, that's exactly right.
It's true. It's really, really.
I'm going to dovetail into that. I'm going to let Anna dovetail into that a little bit. So now we've got people, and then I'll let her go from there.
Hi, I'm Anna.
Hi, Anna.
My question was, Apex has seen tremendous growth since you acquired it. And I was just wondering if there was a key element that you can boil its success down to.
I would love to take credit for that. Nothing would make me happier than to say, hey, we came in and we changed everything. And we did change a lot of stuff. And because we changed everything, Apex just went to the moon. And Apex is doing really well right now. But honestly, like if you had to give credit to anybody, you'd give credit to the original entrepreneurs, because Apex, the business, is just a great business. It solves a major issue that is very hard to solve around a lack of resources and a lack of character and leadership and education inside of schools. And so whether we're involved or not, Apex is going to grow. It's just, can we make it grow faster? Can we help more people understand what we do? And if we do that, it'll grow from really fast to super fast if we do a good job of that. And if we do a bad job of that, it is still going to grow. It is a great, great, wonderful product that our customers tell us they need year and year again, and tell us how much they really love it and appreciate it. And so there were key changes and that helped grow the business significantly, and there were big wins. But I can credit it. I can do nothing else than to credit it just to the value prop that we provide in front of schools as the real reason why Apex continues to grow at a very fast clip.
JQ?
Hey, I'm JQ.
Hi, JQ.
How does your company measure success? Do you mainly look at metrics, or do you try like hitting certain goals?
For me, I come from a financial background. And so I have a very, very intense analytical perspective on business performance. It's hard for me, if I can't see a number going up, for me to get excited that something's working, because there are a lot of instances where a number is not appropriate. And so we do look at those things, but we try to numerically look at the business as much as possible. I kind of liken it to the movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt. In the old school way of doing business and the old school way of playing baseball was more of a feel thing. And that worked for a lot of people. And the more new school, at least in my experience, has been, let's try and find metrics that help us achieve our goals. And so we are very analytically and KPI focused. KPI stands for key performance indicator. It just means statistic. We're very statistics focused in understanding the direction of the business. So I take a pretty intense look at the analytics of the business, the statistics. We call those things KPIs.
No, that's exactly right. And that's why I dovetail with you on that. Israel, take us home on terms of the company, and then we'll go to the last topic.
Hi, my name is Israel.
Hi, Israel.
My question is, what do you see you and the company in the next 5 years? Any plans or goals you want to meet or accomplish?
Yeah. So one of the things that our company believes we do is the way that we're structured with the folks involved, the entrepreneurs involved, ability to support their family and their community at the same time, we believe that is the most efficient way for a school to raise money and bring in resources for schools. We believe that this almost capitalistic model really helps schools succeed in a big way. And we believe that it's very useful for schools, to really be useful for any non-for-profit organization. We believe that so intensely that we want to be the biggest contributor to elementary schools in the country. We don't think we're that far off, especially with our growth intended, but our vision in the next 5 years is to be the biggest contributor to elementary schools in the country, including 501(c)s, including other companies, including whatever. We want to be the biggest aggregator of funds for elementary schools. And that we think that will naturally happen because it is such an attractive service. But we want to get there faster. That's kind of the what we're investing in. And if that happens, Apex will have the ability to bring a lot of stuff to kids and improve the elementary school experience for kids. And so that's the vision of the next 5 years. Our management team is solely focused on that. There are metrics we think we need to hit to achieve that. And once we achieve that, we think we can be a great giver to our elementary schools and a great partner for all elementary schools across the nation.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I want to talk again, there's a lot of, at the age of the current students, they're going to be very involved in tactics. We spent a number of time on strategy. I want to talk about some of the tactics that you use. I'm going to hand it over to Riley to lead us off in this track.
Hey, my name's Riley.
Hi, Riley.
I was just wondering, specifically, what kind of tactics does Apex use in order to become successful? And just another question I was kind of specifically wondering is for the franchisees, do they work with individual schools and they pick a individual school to work with, or do they work with like overall like districts within the territories?
And then one last thing I want to build into it is basically how our territories decide.
Yeah. So when a franchisee signs up for Apex, we give that franchisee a set of zip codes, which typically will represent about 100 schools. And franchisees can choose which schools they can serve. They can ultimately serve almost all the schools should they choose, but they tend to want to focus on certain pockets and demographics, and maybe it's close to them, for example. Maybe it's a type of school that they might have a connection to, but there are a hierarchy of schools that they want to go serve. And that territory will usually include about 100 schools. And so there are several, it would be hard to serve those schools without the assets that Apex Corporate gives to our franchisees, namely around our program and our technology and our collateral and all sorts of other things. But what our biggest asset in terms of at least acquiring the schools is Apex will train the franchisees on how to find all the schools, find the decision makers, and help them articulate our value prop, which does require training and what we call marketing collateral. And so Apex has a whole ton of marketing assets, just PDFs and PR kits that are associated with helping our franchisees tell that story. And then Apex also has a ton of technology that allows our franchisees to find the actual specific decision makers inside of schools that they need to talk to help understand what we can do for that school.
And Justin, why don't you tie your question into that?
Yes, so my name is Justin.
Hi, Justin.
So how does one determine which school receives more fundraising than other schools? In other terms, how does Apex Leadership Code determine which schools will require more work than others?
Yeah, I mean, it's really nothing less than the number of kids. Our biggest value prop, we have this wonderful piece of technology, like we said, that allows parents to distribute to the whole world, not just their local community, that their kid is doing a fundraiser. But that is not the biggest determinant in our success. The biggest determinant in our success is our ability to have interactions with the kids that are leadership and fitness focused, and our ability to help teach the kids and help interact with the kids and help provide beautiful experiences for that kid. And so the more kids there are, the more people we need inside the schools. So really that's the only determinant that matters for how we would think about staffing a school. Outside of that, there are very specific demographic trends around affluence that will typically predict how well a school will do. It's not always. But really the biggest determinant is how much interaction, and we track that pretty intensely, are we able to have with the students, the teachers, the principal, and ultimately all the parents inside the school.
No, that makes perfect sense. And MLS, I really like where you're going with this.
Hi, my name is Emilis, and my question is, could you compare and discuss major differences and similarities of owning a franchise like Apex versus a major fast food franchise like McDonald's?
Yeah, I love that question. That's a beautiful question. There are pros and cons when you invest in a less known franchise that like McDonald's, like Apex versus McDonald's. The pros of investing in McDonald's are that everybody knows what McDonald's is. And as long as you have the capital to invest in McDonald's, you're going to find, and as long as you put it in a good location, people are going to see that brand and they're going to come to McDonald's. And that's very, very, very valuable. One of the problems of working with a McDonald's is, and I'm not going to throw McDonald's under the bus because I think it's got a great number of things. I know really smart people who have worked there. One of the problems with McDonald's, I'm just teasing Jordan. One of the problems with McDonald's is that
Not all of us are smart.
It's very, very expensive for an entrepreneur to enter any restaurant. Some more than others, right? And McDonald's is a large format restaurant, whereas others are more delivery and takeout. But they all require a build, almost all of them. And that's very expensive and limiting to a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a whole cohort of people who want to be entrepreneurs, want to be their own boss, but could never afford to pay, I don't know how much it costs today, $3 to $5 million to go build a McDonald's. And so that's very limiting. So in the restaurant industry, there's pros and cons, but one consistent theme is it's usually pretty gosh darn expensive to get in there, but you do get the brand recognition specifically of a more mature restaurant. For a more young franchise, I see there as really two benefits. The first is the opposite of one of them, which is it's typically, if it's not a restaurant and it's more of a service-based business, it's much, 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 much more affordable to get in because you do not have to build a restaurant. So you go from maybe investing $3 million to 300,000 or even 100,000 or 200,000, it depends. And so if you don't have $3 million in net worth, you can still be your own business owner by investing in a service, less mature franchise. The other thing is, although you don't get the brand recognition of McDonald's, what you'll typically get, depending on the maturity of the franchise, is a bigger territory with more access. So the more mature it is, the more specific you're going to get. If it's a very immature franchise or it's a very new franchise, you're going to get a very large territory. And that territory can be very successful. And you might get the rights to develop multiple restaurants if it's a younger franchise, or if it's a younger restaurant franchise, or if it's a younger service franchise, you might have access to a much larger population, which would allow you to build a much larger business. And so depending on, you don't get the name brand recognition, but you get the opportunity to have a much, much more successful outcome. And so it's sort of like where you are on the risk spectrum. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to bet on yourself and you want to do really well, a younger franchise might be a better fit. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a ton of money and you want more assured success, but maybe not the same returns, and you want to bet more on the brand, a larger format, specifically restaurant, might be a good fit for you.
No,
And I know
that's exactly.
Jordan has a long track record in restaurants, so if I said anything rude about restaurants, I apologize.
No, you've nailed it. I mean, that's exactly right. So I have two questions left. We've already gone way past, so I appreciate your time, but as I had warned the class, this is, you just, I continue to be impressed by you, Jamie. And, I want one tactical and then one personal question, so I'm gonna hand it over to Alicia for a little bit more of a tactical question. And basically really focusing, what does tomorrow lead to, but I'm gonna let her say that.
Hey, my name is Alicia.
Hi, Alicia.
My question to you was, what are the challenges you face on day-to-day basis and how you overcome it?
So how do you overcome kind of your day-to-day challenges?
Yeah. I mean, it's the
Personally.
same. Yeah, I think there's an obvious one for when you're running a company, but I don't think it's too different. Maybe even when you're in school. I think the most important thing when you're running a company by far, in terms of how you think about your day, and the challenges is prioritization. There are 100 million places you could take this, whatever you're doing. You could be in our business or any business, and there are a million people who want to talk to you. Plus, there are a million avenues that you could go down. So those two things can be very confusing about what to focus on. And so if you take a really dogmatic approach at saying, here's what I care about. I care about these things too, but less so. But here's what I really care about. And here are the activities I believe that will move those things. And you try to ignore the other stuff, or at least put it on what we call the parking lot, you really will have a lot bigger impact. I don't think like being a successful leader is necessarily about being maybe even the most talented, gregarious, charming, person ever. I think probably the biggest impact is coachability is very important, but also prioritization of your time, because you only get maybe 14 to 16 hours awake a day. You could easily spend those 16 hours on unproductive activity. But if you choose activities that are productive and you spend a lot of time actually choosing the activities, I think you have a much higher likelihood of success. So prioritization is hugely important, I think, when you are leading an organization.
We're preaching to the choir on that one. So normally I have a couple wrap-up questions, but first of all, before I do that, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's a gift. As you led this off, it is a gift to all of us. And usually I have a couple wrap-up questions, but this time in the submissions that I received, Simeon stole my thunder. So I'm going to let you give the final questions here for today.
What's up? I'm Simeon.
Hi, Simeon.
So I have a personal question. How do you set goals and how do you strive for them? And then also personal goals and like goals for the company, like if they're separate or if they're tied together. And then just like if you have routines, principles, or tips, that would be helpful for younger people like us.
Yeah. So for myself, I've been one of the powerful exercises that I've been trying to do, which I think works at any part of your life, is everybody kind of secretly has, and it might not be as clear as you want it to be, but kind of has a goal for where they might want to be in 5 or 10 years. Maybe it's 3 years, but you see yourself in the future somewhere. You might be trying to get married, maybe not for this group, but trying to get a big career or be the boss or whatever. And I think trying to get super clear on where you want to be, let's say in 5 years. Really, the last time I did it, it was probably 36 months from now. And you think about that personally. Personally, what do I want? Not just for my career, which is a big part of your life, or your upcoming life, but also for your personal life. They all kind of fit together. It's the vision of you wake up in 3 years from now, and this is the life you're living, and that's what you want. And then backtracking into what you have to do today to achieve that. So that's how I set up my personal goals. I have a pretty clear vision of the things I want in my personal life and my professional life, and they're symbiotic, and I'm working towards that vision. But I've gotten pretty clear on what I want in 36 months. And then for the company, it's kind of similar. We look out 5 years from now, like we said, or really that was a 10-year goal of being the largest fundraising or the largest contributor to elementary schools of anything, 501Cs, whatever, in the country. And we put numbers around that. We work backwards into a 5-year, a 3-year, a 1-year, and quarterly goals. And so it's kind of similar. It's more intense on the business side in terms of the numbers and the timelines of what we're trying to get to. But we're very, very intensive about the long-term goal and working backwards. And even up until the annual goals are like, there's tons of metrics we're trying to hit. And so that's how I think about goals at both sides of the business, or sorry, for business and for personal. And then for routines and things to do for young people, the thing that resonates to me most is I've read of several different books on this now, and putting up the right habits is like incredible, because a lot of people will call that willpower. But if you, and you can't do too many at one time, but if you say, I want to be like this in my life, I want to wake up early, I want to work out, I want to get this job, I want to do whatever, and you just introduce one habit at a time, not a lot of habits, just one. Because if you put in too many, what I've found is it becomes overwhelming and then you crash. But if you put in little habits and then you check in on those habits after 2, 3, 4 weeks, they're just like normal at that point. Like it's not even hard. And so then you stack the next habits. And so like stacking habits one on top of another is super powerful to achieve a lot of this routines that might be helpful for your life as you grow. So I found that to be, I've been told that, hey, Jamie, you're so hard charging, lots of willpower. And I've been told the opposite of those things too. But in terms of the folks who believe those things about me, it doesn't really require a lot of willpower. It's a lot of what I call these habit stackings. And once you get 1%, you get a habit in there, you get 1% better, then you get another habit in there, and you get 1.1% better. And then you get another habit in there, and now it's 1.3% better. If you do that enough times, you're going to look back and it's going to be a big impact on your life.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm going to turn to the class. I mean, that's gold. If you guys are trying to figure out how to get ahead, if you visualize the end point, it's overwhelming and it's amorphous. I'll never get there is a common solution. One step. If you break it down to all the necessary steps, it's how you solve a big problem. It's how you solve a big research paper. It's how you solve anything. And most importantly, it's how you solve where you want to be. Because most people are going to get distracted. It's just what they do. TikTok is kind of cool. You know, these things, distractions, you know, Instagram is kind of cool. It's a distraction. Snapchat's kind of cool. It's a distraction. My favorite TV show, it's a distraction. Sometimes distractions are necessary. It's tough to live a life without some distraction. But Jamie's broken it down really well, how to do just focus on one thing, get that done. You're the best, man. I really appreciate it. To give you the biggest thing, I'm going to tell my son that he needs to give a gander to this, to my son.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, your son was it. I know your son was an investment. I think he was or currently is an investment banker. And I was an investment banker as well for my first job. And yeah, I mean, it was super awesome part of the career. And yeah, for sure. Anytime he wants to talk, I'd be happy to, for sure as well.
No, I mean, yeah, no, I'll for sure do that, but just have him listen to this hour. But thank you so much. You were truly the best, and you and I will talk soon.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. I really did mean it when I said this class is like amazing, like such an incredible resource. I was so inspired by it. That's why I cold called Jordan. And so I'm just very honored and appreciative that you guys would have me in the class.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Good luck, guys. Thank you very much.
Okay, you want it.
Bye-bye.